Morning, everyone. Saturday, getting back to zero, early morning edition. I got up at 4:15 Eastern time to do a yoga class with one of my guests this morning, and we were talking about this before the show about accountability, and I think this applies, even though we're going to talk about trauma and yoga this morning. These are good lessons for me and maybe to pass on about accountability and sobriety because I know myself. And if I had just planned on getting up to do yoga by myself or watching a tape, I probably would have gone right back to sleep. But because I knew that it was alive and I had someone that was kind of counting on me or expecting me to be there, it did drag my butt out of bed. And I think the same thing goes with sobriety. If I tell people I'm going to do something and I want to check in with you, I'm going to check in with you tonight at 6 to let you know how my evening's going. I'm much more apt to stay true to those goals. So I'm learning so much more about the importance of counting on each other and relying on each other. And we're going to do some things with the program, even on some. I've learned about WhatsApp through one of my guests, through Alex, and maybe even doing some support through that. So we're going to bring in both our guests. We have Rose, who you've met before. She's our sober vegan cop. And we have Alex McRoberts, as we call her, from Abu Dhabi right now, our Canadian yoga professional. It's interesting because we're going to do a class and we're going to talk about yoga for healing. And yet, Alex, yoga is just, it's not healing, it's painful. And that's what you do to me every time in these classes. And so I'm trying to find where the hell the healing part comes from when the only healing I know is from needing to heal after your classes because my head goes through the wall when I try to balance on whatever positions. And that's what you do in the class. You just laugh at me. So I have feelings too. Okay. Thank you both for being here. I wanted to start. We're going to talk about trauma, some tough times. I like to laugh and like to have fun, and I will always look to smile versus cry. But life is not. Life gives us some tough roads, and Rose is the spotlight of that, unfortunately. But she's also the spotlight of what we can do overcoming trauma. But before we get into the solutions, Rose, will you tell us just your story? You know, what happened with you and why you're here today talking about this?
Yeah, for sure. My journey isn't anything without my daughter, because she's the one that got me started on my journey. But just a little background. My oldest daughter, Catherine, she was in school. She was one of those little nerdy kids that was always in books and didn't have a lot of friends, not that social, but super intelligent, straight A student. And then she got into like high school. She started blossoming into this beautiful girl and got really popular and started hanging around the wrong crowd. And then she started to experiment, with alcohol and marijuana and some pills. I didn't think about it too much. I mean, I thought, well, some of it's typical teenage, behavior, things like that. She went on to have a couple of children straight out of high school, and then just to shorten it up, in 2016, April of 2016, I got one of the worst calls I ever thought I would ever get as a parent. But she called me and she said, "Mom, I've been addicted to heroin for the last 10 months." And sorry, I get emotional every time. And I need help. I'm dope sick, and I'm like, oh my God, like what? Heroin, it's just like the worst thing you can imagine. And I left everything I was doing and I went straight away and put her in rehab and took her son home with me. And, at first she did really well. She completed all the way to the sober house and I mean, just blossomed. And we were finally having this great relationship together as two adults. And it was beautiful. We had some great memories. But after that, she went and relapsed, and then it was just pretty much hell for her and me for a year and a half, in and out of rehabs and picking her up, shooting up, and just seeing her high and trying to have a relationship with her like that. And it was the most heartbreaking thing to see your child drowning in front of you and you just can't do anything to save them. And, as being a police officer, that's what I do for my job. I try to help people, and you can't even help your own kid. You just like, you just feel lost. Never gave up on her, and I fought with her until the very end. And I thought she was going to pull out of it. She had gone to a rehab one last time, and she had had one last play date with her kids a month before. But in November, I got a call from a homicide detective, and the end of November 20th. And he told me that she had been dumped in an alley, and that they believed it was an overdose. And, the reports confirm that. Basically, the person picked her up that she was with. She got some bad dope that had fentanyl in it, and he just dumped her in an alley, and she died. Didn't get her any help or anything. And obviously, the death itself was just super traumatic for me. But I also my whole world went black, because I had so much hope, and I fought so hard for her and with her, and to just have that all be gone in an instant. And, I beat myself up about, I should have been there to pick her up that day, or, what could I have done, to save her, all the things that are going to go through you, trying to torture yourself a little bit with that. And at that point, I've been drinking for 2 decades, just whatever drinking. And then it turned into really dark drinking, as I like to call it, or sadly. That became my blanket, my warm, dark blanket that I could sit there and cry and talk about her. Nobody was like over, alcohol wasn't over it. They weren't like, stop talking about your daughter, or when are you going to get better? All that stuff. And I would just sit there in the fetal position and scream and cry and drink until I passed out. And I did that for the next 3 years, and then I get up and, pop some Adderall and go to work, and in the cop world, you don't get a lot of that sort of emotional support. They're starting to do better, but with feelings or with mental health or grief or anything like that, I had to go back to work like the week after. Anyway, I did that, and then one day I just woke up and I was like, I gotta do something. I gotta be here for my grandkids. I gotta be here for my living kids, and I will never forgive myself if I kill myself doing this. When I had the opportunity to do something different. And it was really hard, because it was like my security blanket, and I didn't know how I was going to get sober or what I was going to do. I didn't want to. I really enjoyed drinking, and it gave me comfort, I thought. But I reached out to my daughter. I talked to her a lot. I was outside on my porch, and I was just like, I need you to save me. I need you to freaking help me. If you want me to live here for your kids and be around, then you got to step in and help me, because I want to die. I want to die. And the next day I woke up. Well, actually, I take that back. I went in and watched a documentary about, it was called What the Health. I said, I'm going to start a health journey. I didn't think I was going to quit drinking yet, but I became vegan the next day. Cold turkey, I guess. I don't know what to say, but I don't know why I did that, but I did. And it sort of jump-started. And I say that because it jump-started my sobriety journey. Because 2 weeks later of still drinking heavily, I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm trying to be healthy over here, and then I'm still just, drinking every night. What's the point? So I woke up 2 weeks later and I stopped drinking. And then 3 days later, I quit smoking. And then a couple weeks after that, I quit Adderall. It was just like this whole sort of journey that I started. And it's all like these balls that I'm sort of juggling of health that are keeping me, on track and sober. I started meditating, doing yoga, just things to start trying to heal myself, and it's, I don't know how much I'm talking a lot, but that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know.
No, I wanted to get, Alex, I'll let you jump in, but we cope, and I coped my whole life with alcohol. I coped for everything. I didn't know how else to cope. I lost those skills. And, well, Alex, you got into yoga for personal reasons, growth yourself as a young age. You're working now a little bit, or dabbling with this as a aid for trauma, ways to heal. How did that come about? And let's just start. you're talking to the wrong guy to understand this. So how does
Yeah.
that position help me deal with a loss? How does
Yeah.
this work?
Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Rose, for sharing your story and for trusting us with that story, because I can just hear that you've been through so much. And as Jeff says, yeah, we cope in the best way we can, right? And we use what we have around us until we know, or until we have better resources around us, right? So it's perfectly normal that many of us would turn to alcohol because that's what we know and that's what we have. And it takes a lot to eventually, make that drastic lifestyle change to quit drinking. And so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That change. Yeah, trauma informed yoga. So this is something that I run 200-hour yoga teacher trainings, and a part of my training course is trauma informed yoga. And I want to share a bit about, so I got into my yoga practice when I was young for my own mental health struggles. I was struggling with an undiagnosed mood disorder. I was using alcohol to cope, and I discovered yoga, and I was practicing yoga for years. And a lot of people I knew described themselves as trauma-informed yoga teachers, and I didn't really understand what that meant as a yoga teacher. Like, I thought that it meant, there were specific yoga poses or specific meditations or specific things to do. And then I actually took a trauma-informed yoga teacher training in 2019, I guess it was before the pandemic. And what I learned from that is that trauma-informed yoga teaching, it's like a way to approach the whole yoga practice. And the goal is to create a space that promotes psychological and emotional safety. Because the reality is, as yoga teachers or as anyone, we're never going to know who is a trauma survivor unless they're going to share our story with us, right? Like, I could be walking down the street and see Rose and have no idea what Rose has been through unless she shares her story with me, right? And so as a yoga teacher, you're going to have people walking into your room every day, and 1 out of 4 people is a trauma survivor, right? And so it's actually more common than we are aware of. And if we are not educated on some of the simple ways that we can, prevent re-traumatization and promote psychological and emotional safety, then we could re-trigger or re-traumatize people unintentionally. And so the goal is, as yoga teachers, to be just aware of all of the different small and subtle changes that we can do in the way that we hold the space, in the way that we speak to people, in the way that we offer our yoga teachings, so that people feel safe in the space.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of an overview of what trauma-informed yoga teaching really is.
What the physical the physical clearing of the body, I understand. The mind, to open that up, where is, and Rose, I'll even let you jump in on this, because you're dealing with yoga right now. I don't get I've heard people say that what you said. I start doing this and I wept the whole time in yoga. And the only time I weep is because of physical pain from Alex pushing me in an unsafe manner. Just kidding, Alex. But you hear about people just from doing yoga weeping, and I don't get that. What did you experience, and how does that work for you?
Me?
Yeah, sure.
Well, like for me, I did set up like what Alex saw. I set up a really safe space in my home, which is, you can't see it in here, but it's sort of my meditation room, with lots of just positive things in here, things of my daughter's, but just made it really safe space. I call it my quiet room, and no one's really allowed in it. Sometimes I let the grandkids in, but that was like the first key for me. I needed my own little safe place. And then I started meditation, which I started to learn how to heal myself through a lot of meditation, because I'd never done meditation before, and it was amazing how much I mean, that just started to change my life. Like, just the healing started to begin, and I was able to connect with my daughter in that way, because it was a little black after she died. You know, I couldn't get any kind of connection. I just felt really dark. But through meditation, and part of it's just me envisioning like her in a certain space, you know, and just little things of her, like I mentioned on the last show, her hands, you know, that I can remember really clearly, and just stuff like that. And so through doing yoga in here as well, I'd close my eyes, and it was like her and I would envision her and I doing these yoga things, like mirroring each other on the beach. And I know it sounds maybe odd to people, but it was like this amazing ballet, you know, like this, I don't know, I cry right now, but it was like this thing, and we would like touch hands, and I would do all the poses, and it was like her doing them with me, and it just was like this healing, like this is beauty, you know, and that's for me, that, you know, I could just feel it through my whole body. And then the poses too being challenging, so it was part of me, like the hard parts and stuff like that, and then working through them, you know, through the yoga, like hard poses, and then being able to, okay, now I can actually, you know, do the plank in a way, and not fall down when I'm chaturanga, you know, or whatever the word is, you know. But it was like her strength being with my strength, and it was like this journey. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but that's how it was working for me, and how it works for me in general.
Alex, does the difficulty do that? The challenges? Is that what opens things up?
You know, I would say what it really is the so our yoga practice is basically, the goal is to transition from a state of, so we have the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system, and we're trying to transition from a state of the sympathetic nervous system, which is really can be chronic stress, right? And if you're someone who's experienced trauma, you might have like experience the fight or flight response, and you might still be in this high state of chronic stress. And by connecting to our breath and connecting to being in the now and letting go of, you know, whatever is going on for us in our mind, we're able to drop into the present moment. And I think it's that process of connecting to the breath and connecting to the now that we're able to kind of clear all our what's going on for us. And maybe not for some people, they might not feel that right away, because they just have so much that they're dealing with. But eventually you might get to a state where you're able to just really feel your body and feel your breath and feel what's happening. And then you can have like a beautiful moment like that, like Rose is describing, and it, you know, will be different for everyone. But it really is the magic of the breath and the way that we're able to move from the stress response and into that state of rest and digest.
Are the poses for someone, if you were going to, you know, I know you're working on some stuff, and I want to hear what your thoughts are, your goals for this, but are the poses different that you would do for someone in this, or is it the coaching, the verbal? Because I know that when the classes, you kind of talk and you do readings and, you know, try and get the class, like your mind focused on other things as well as working on your, is it more the coaching part, or is there physical that you would do differently as well?
So I would say, you know, for each person, the experience is so unique to them. And so what might be a calming yoga shape for someone might be triggering for someone else. And so I wouldn't say that there's a specific different sequence that you would do differently, but I would say the approach as a yoga teacher would be different. So I'll tell you, back when I first started yoga, you know, there was a lot going on in terms of like touching people without their consent, like yoga teachers showing up and just touching people and adjusting them. That was the norm. And I actually did that for a while when I first became a yoga teacher, because I thought that was, you know, what you do. Telling people that they can't leave the room. That was a big one. Like when I was in hot yoga, they would say, you know, don't leave the room because, you know, your body temperature, whatever. But someone who has, for example, been locked, say someone has been trapped in a room as a part of their abuse that they've experienced. That is like so re-traumatizing to say to someone, you can't leave the room. Touching someone who has been touched without their consent and touching them without their permission, that would be triggering. Or what else? Like, this is a big one. I used to just flick off the lights. I would be like, okay, it's Shavasana, flick off the lights. Not even thinking how terrifying that would be for someone to all of a sudden be in the dark, right? And so it's really simple and subtle adjustments that we can make. For example, saying to people, hey, everyone, I am about to dim the lights, and then slowly dimming them. So it's not like a sudden shift. Or the use of the yoga strap, which is the yoga strap is to enhance certain poses, deepen certain poses. But if we insist on people using yoga straps, there's people who might, like, most people that have been a kidnapping victim have been bound against their will, right? So telling them to bound up in a yoga strap would be really traumatizing for them. And so it's not really the specific sequence or the specific things, but it's the approach to everything and making every single thing optional, every single thing inclusive. And also know that, you're never going to be perfect, right? Because I don't know what anyone's triggers are. I don't know what anyone's trauma is. There might be a moment where I re-traumatize someone or trigger someone without even knowing it. But it's being as conscious that we can of making it as safe a space as possible, that even if I accidentally, re-traumatize someone, they would still feel safe in my space and safe in my class. And so then there are some specific things, for example, like, I'll give you an example. I was teaching a yoga class the other day in a hospital in Abu Dhabi. This isn't really about trauma, but more about, I had Muslim participants who were wearing abaya and hijab because they're Muslim here. And so I specifically was like, okay, I'm not going to do poses where their bottoms are in the air. And I'm going to make sure the doors are shut. And I'm going to ask someone to make sure that there aren't men, looking through the window. And so it's like me thinking, okay, this is the context and how can I modify? And I can just do that thing seated on your bottom as opposed to your bottom up in the air. And so that would be an example of, if you were working in a setting where you knew that it was maybe sexual assault survivors, you would say, okay, how can we shift these shapes so that they're as comfortable as possible? And then also always giving people an opportunity to opt out, right? Someone might do a pose that is just not for them. And always giving people an opportunity to opt out and modify. So I would say it's not specifically the sequencing or the specific, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Does that make sense?
No, it does. As a guy that looked for answer in one pill or one sentence, is this something that, and Rose, maybe you're better, is this a process or is it I don't know. I guess I'm thinking going to the chiropractor and you get adjusted and you walk out and say, hey, I'm happy in my life. Are there steps, Alex, maybe even better to you, that a progression you shoot for, or is it a course type thing? What are you looking for? How's the progression go?
I think it's the same answer, which is that every single person has a really different experience, right? And we're not all going to come in the same place, and we're not all going to end up in the same place. I think it's just a practice, right? And it's a practice, and it's the approach that I take as a yoga teacher, and trying to make every single thing that I offer specifically inclusive to everyone who might be a trauma survivor. And then, if I'm like, I've been looking at doing specific programs for specific, specific issues. Like maybe I've been looking at maybe doing something related to like domestic abuse, because I'm someone who was in an abusive relationship, and I've been looking at creating a support group around that. And maybe that will look different than something in particular for just the general public, right? And so I wouldn't say it's a specific process. It's just the way that the practice is approached it's held in a different way.
Rose,
go ahead.
No, I just want to, do you get the results from yoga, or does it allow you to open up to be able to find or get those results? are the results, the healing you're getting directly from yoga, or is it that clears your mind? The yoga is a tool to get to those points.
Yeah, well, I think it's a process, like she was saying, and everyone comes in a different state, you know. Like for me, at the beginning of my grief and stuff, and before I got sober, but I was super hypersensitive to so many things around me, you know, more than I ever knew before that I was. And then I would just shut down. If people like didn't approach things a certain way, I would immediately like, you know, shut it down. Okay, I'm going out here. I can't be part of this group. I can't, you know what I mean? Because it was very sensitive to me specifically, you know. So having someone like Alex that's being very careful and sensitive to the needs, possible needs, even though she doesn't know everybody, and what they could be, just by the little things, that makes a huge difference. For me, it's been a journey. Like it started with the meditation part. So I learned kind of like the breathing and how to focus my mind and all of that. And then I started to do yoga. I'm still trying to get more into yoga because I don't think, I mean, I don't know. I think healing the body is part of healing the mind. So I think it goes together, you know, for me, you know, and healing the spirit. It's all been like all part of one thing for me. I don't think it, like for me, it's been all inclusive, like starting with my mind, and now my heart is healing, and like, and my body, it's just all for me. And then eating, like all of it's part of it, the same thing for me.
See, I think,
but it's a
I
journey.
think I'm seeing, no, I think I see what you're saying, because it is a package. You know, yesterday, I've been doing this yoga now for, I don't know, a month. Look at Alex laughing at, you know, just
no,
the picture
smiling. I'm so happy you're doing it, honestly. And it was
my
amazing.
dog laughs at me, you know, and goes, really, Dad, you're going to try that position? You remember what happened the other day? Your face landed in my water dish when you tried that one. But the benefits I'm getting from it, yes, I had a real crappy day at work. Some stuff that was out of my control and that would have sent me over the edge. And I was calmer. I'm able to just, it's okay. Life's going to go on. And I know, just now hearing you talk, those are things that are reflective of what I've been putting in. So it's because of the classes. It's knowing that I've got classes to go to look forward to. It's the whole package, Rose, like you said, that, you know, what I'm putting into my body, how I'm feeling about myself, as well as how my body is feeling from doing some of this stuff. You know, like the yoga, I've stretched my whole life, you know, but it was always kind of a force. But I've noticed nights after doing the yoga class where I sit around and I just feel great. And I'm amazed that my body feels the crap is out of it, the tension. Yes. And I can actually just relax.
Yeah.
So, and that probably then allows me, you know, my trauma right now is sobriety, you know, I'm still dealing with the emotions of that and learning, but it's much easier to face when I'm doing this stuff. So maybe that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. And it's the physical meets it's like where soul meets body, you know what I mean? To use that song, but that's how I feel, my body and my soul connecting, and that's what's healing. I read this quote today, so I just wanted to share it, but it's our brokenness summons light into the deepest crevices of our heart, you know. So I think when you're super broken and for whatever trauma you've experienced in your life or why you're broken, I think if you can be open and allowing yourself to wanting to heal, that's the first step. And then you can bring in, you know, meditation and yoga and things like that, because that's how you get strong, I think, and you start your healing journey. You know, you got to do steps. You can't just want it. You have to actually do the work as well.
That's, you know, I Rose, you're such an inspiration to me, because I haven't experienced the loss that you've experienced, and it scares the hell out of me because I don't know how I would handle it. But seeing you smile at least gives me, you know what, maybe I could survive that. But I don't know how you can ever be happy again or find joy. And that's
yeah, I mean, that's, you know, I didn't think I could the first 3 years, and I felt guilty even if I ever just enjoyed myself for a moment. I felt super guilty. And I didn't ever think I would be able to find joy again in my life, you know. But, you know, after getting sober, like sobriety was the first thing that I had to do to be able to and get rid of all of the things that were polluting my mind, that were I don't know, just I had to clear my mind from anything outside of just me, you know. And I found suddenly I started to things, like I said last time when we were talking, it's like things suddenly seemed brighter, and there was just like there was hope again. These little, it's like a flashlight, and I was in this tunnel, and this flashlight's like giving me little flickers, you know. And I'm like, oh, there is some light, you know. I mean, I wanted to die, and now I can't wait to live every day, you know what I mean? And that's just so amazing to me. I count it every day as a huge miracle, because, like I said, I just feel so excited and grateful that I can be happy about life, so that my grandkids I can be around for them, which are Catherine's kids, you know, and I can be here for my grown kids, you know, and because they were losing me. I was lost, so lost, you know.
It makes
And
sense. The
yeah,
yoga does revitalize. It gives me
100%. Yeah.
I guess what I'm learning from this is that it's not that I come into yoga and the trauma is gone. It's giving me the tools to handle the trauma, if that makes any sense, Alex.
Absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely.
See, I'm a little slow. I take a little time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
These shows aren't for anyone else. This is just this is the help Jeff figure life out hour. I'm not even, you know, this is all for me. Alex, do you see? I mean, have you? You got to hear stories of people, and I'm going to say thanking you, but I know you're not going to take the credit for it. But thanking yoga, I guess, is what we'll say. But do you hear stories a lot about that? Where
Absolutely. Because actually someone said to me the other week that they felt that the yoga teacher training was better than any therapy they had. And I 100% agree, because I had been through therapy all my life, which was wonderful, from a really young age. And it was all great, but it was, for me, as soon as I started integrating the body and the mind, you know, I was just in therapy working on the mind, and I wasn't comprehending that it was all one thing. Like, it took me so long to understand that, and everything that that happens to us mentally is going to land somewhere within us physically, like our shoulders, our hips, our back. It's all connected, right? And so for me, it was transformative, you know, and I hear it from so many people too. And someone else said to me a month ago that they made a connection all of a sudden, that, you know, they had the loss of a loved one, and that was right when they started getting physical pain in their I think it was in her back. She was having back pain for years and years, and she just made that connection in my yoga class. Like, oh my goodness, that physical pain was connected with that emotional pain. And yeah, it's like it's magical being part of, like, it's an honor to be part of so many people's stories and so many people's journeys, and hearing how this practice has exactly what you said, Jeff, like given them the tools to manage what they are walking around with, and helping them face the day. It's magic.
And I, for one, Alex, really appreciate your approach. You're very open, and you're willing to just see the needs, the potential needs of everyone. And that's huge for me, because some yoga thing, you know, I've been to, it's just like they're all about like their way, and this is how it goes. And, you know, and you're just kind of like, okay. But for you, like with you, just talking to you even now, and then I've done some of your classes too, you're just very open, and you're sweet, and you're calm, and you're kind of, it makes me feel like it makes me feel safe. It makes me feel, you know, reassured that what's going to happen in here is going to be okay. And you really need that, especially if you're, you know, have PTSD or trauma and stuff like that. You know, you want to make sure that, okay, if I'm going in here, it's going to be okay.
Absolutely.
You know, so I really appreciate that a lot.
You know, that's one thing, Alex, is because we do a sober curious. She does a sober curious yoga, which is, I love, and it's a check-in as well. But I think what's that?
I listen to her podcast too. Anyway.
Oh yeah. Well, I think what makes it what really works for me is that she's not this almighty, I'm up here telling the minions how to do this.
Yeah,
she gets on and talks about her own journey, and to think, oh, wait a minute, she gets it. She's actually one of us. Yeah. That was where I was, and she's growing, and it makes it safe. And
Gives you
I
hope
think
too.
what this, Rose, what you were saying, I drive people nuts with my analogies, but I was a bucket full of water, and the new water, the solutions in life don't fit because it's already full. I got to empty it out to make room for the good stuff. And I think yoga's one of those things that is allowing me to dump the crap to make room for the solutions that are out there. It does. It opens up my mind. It's crazy, Alex, because I did this. I started this journey for flexibility and balance, which are the two things that are already saying, "Hey, we're going to take you down." So that's all I was looking for. Just like with sobriety, I was looking to just quit drinking. That was it. I wasn't looking for all the other stuff I'm getting from sobriety. I didn't even realize you could get all this stuff I'm getting. I just wanted to quit drinking, and now it's like, wow, it's opened up, and I'm starting to see this with yoga.
Yeah,
100%.
It does open some doors.
and it's been so amazing watching your journey, Jeff, because we just happened upon each other. Like, I came on the show, Kathy found me, came on the show. I don't think at that point he with me coming on, he had a plan of joining the community, and now just seeing, and I don't even actually see Jeff a lot in class because he's all the way in North America. And so the times don't always line up, but he's been doing class a lot with our North American teachers, and just to see the point you are now, from when we met, which would have been in July, like, it's just, it's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I even bought some because it's so damn cold in my basement here. And I even bought some new yoga socks with grippies for those real cold winter days. Yeah. So I'm not freezing. And I don't. So Alex, what do you have planned? What are the goals with this trauma and yoga? What is your future looking like?
Yeah, I would love to create some programs specifically for trauma and yoga. It's definitely on the horizon, something I'm looking at. We do 8-week programs with the Mindful Life practice, and a lot of what we offer in the Sober Curious check-ins at the start of yoga practice, I would say, is a lot of people have a safe space to share what's going on with them, which can be inclusive to, processing whatever is going on in their lives, be it major things, be it smaller things. And so we do have like a safe space in our whole yoga community, but I definitely am looking at creating some specific programs. If anyone has any suggestions or anything they're looking for, it's definitely on the horizon for later this fall.
I think the check-in is huge because even like with the sobriety, it gives me something that is my focus point for the class. And I think to look at, I don't know, with the trauma of something that is bothering, to bring that up as the focal point, and then I don't know if what the instruction is, but to somehow to let it go or to deal with it, or let, I don't know, the emotions flow through your body into these areas of tension. I'm still figuring out how all that works, but it's you're going to turn me into something that I didn't want to be, Alex. I'm going to be wearing a leotard soon, walking around instead of a. I need my football jerseys quick. This is not good. Rose, how did you find yoga? Was this a long-term thing, or is this just recent?
No, I mean, I've been doing yoga off and on for years, but it didn't have nearly as much meaning. And I'm not that good. Like, I really need to I'm starting to, wanting to get really good at it now. But it was just more of, things I did it throughout my years. But now the meaning behind it, it's such a spiritual time for me when I do yoga, that it's a completely different experience now. And so I really look forward to it. I really love it a lot. It's transformative for me now. It's part of my healing. It's part of my my meditation and everything else I do. So
Has there been one aspect that has been the main key for your healing, or is it a package deal that is dependent upon each piece?
It's a package deal that's dependent on each piece. I think maybe eventually it'll change, but I feel like I have a certain routine every day when I get up. You know, I meditate, I write, I do all these things. You know, I exercise. I do the every single day, the same day. I write down my stats every day. For me, that's been super key. And so I try to maintain. I'm a routine person. I'm an all or nothing at all person. If I give in to some little thing, I feel like I will, you know, maybe let everything fall apart. So for me right now, routine is super important to me. I don't know if that'll change later, but it's been those things and that have been healing for me, and I can count on them. And it's something that's predictable, and I need predictability sometimes in my life right now because of just such a great loss, you know. But, you know, 412 days today of being sober, you know, and I write that down every morning. And it's just been, I mean, I feel like now even too, and it's sad to say, but in some ways, I'm closer. Sorry, my earpiece came out, but I'm closer to my daughter now than I was in life. Like, you know, we had such a struggle, and now her journey is led into my journey, and we're just like so connected now. And it's kind of weird for some people that don't get I'm just a real spiritual person, you know. I believe in energy and all of those things, and now I know that I'm sober and that I'm healing and all the things that I'm doing because of her helping me. Like, I truly believe that, you know, she fought for it, she wasn't able to get there. And so, like, her and I are on this, like, the collateral beauty of the, you know, the damage that's been done. And that's how I choose to look at it. And I don't know, I take every day, just continue trying to grow and heal and do all this that's important, to bring in all the elements like yoga, like meditation, like whatever's working for you, but to bring those in so that you can grow and continue to heal. You know, you can't just wish it, you got to do it, you know, you got to put in the work. Like,
You know, Alex, and what you just said, Rose, putting in the work, because if you want happiness, if you want results, nothing comes easy. You want to get in shape. You don't.
right.
You got to go out and earn it. You got to work these things, and whether it's sobriety or dealing with trauma, it's not an overnight. I realize that, and it's not a one thing. It's, for me, you know, I'm not dealing with the big T traumas. I'm dealing with smaller stuff, which I didn't even realize, and I'm still on that discovery journey. But just like with sobriety, I can quit drinking, but if I want to be really happy in sobriety, if I want my goal, my dream of what I look like and what I look like inside and out of sobriety, it's not just quitting drinking. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that is required. And yeah, sometimes it's hard, but man, the results are freaking worth every ounce of time and effort to get it.
100%.
And I'm thrilled with the
Go ahead.
No, I'm thrilled the yoga's part of it.
Absolutely.
You know, that's opened. So, Alex, you do 8-week courses. Do people have to wait because you're in the middle? Can they join? What is and what's the purpose of a course? I mean, why am I not just doing the same thing every day, 365 a year?
Yeah, we decided to shift what we were offering. We had drop-in programs for a long time, and now we do 8-week programs. You definitely can join in the middle. I think you joined in the middle, Jeff, actually, middle of the summer. But we kind of space out our year. So we have 8-week programs, and then we'll have a week off here and there. So we are jumping into our late fall season at the end of October, beginning of November, and then we'll have a week in January where we'll do a special event, like we did Sober Curious Yoga Week in end of August at the end of the summer season, which was amazing. But the reason why we shifted it this way is because we find that it just creates again, it's like about creating that community, right? It creates that consistent community where people know who's showing up every single time. And this morning, you know, you saw that with Jeff. Jeff came to this 4:30 a.m. class, which he hadn't usually come to before, but everyone in the group, it's our regular Saturday morning group, you know? And so people really get to know each other. They feel safe. They feel that they can share their journey with the group. And so those are some of the reasons that we've set it up the way it is. So anyone could join. We do a 2-week free trial, so anyone could join in at any time. But then at the start of November, we will, create our new class schedule. People will sign up for November and December at one time. And then it also helps with accountability and consistency, right? If you've signed up to do yoga every Monday at 8 p.m. for 8 weeks, then it helps you show up continuously. And it's sense. Okay, if life comes up and, you can't make one class, it's totally fine. It's no big deal. But having the general consistent commitment, I find really helps people stick to their goals.
I talked to someone the other day that had some back issues, and there was a hesitation of doing yoga because I can't get into those positions. I can't do that. So what I know you have, because I look for the word beginner when I'm choosing classes, what do you have for people that don't have, that might have some of the issues physically limitations?
Yeah, if there are, so we have our beginner classes, but everything can be modified. So I actually had one person join our community who was practicing yoga in a chair because of their back issues. And so we just were aware, these are the classes that this person has booked into. And then I modified as I was teaching. So everything that I offered, I had a version to do it in a chair. And so we do have, if we know about someone's limitations ahead of time, the teachers can plan to modify for the person that will be there. But we don't have anything specific. We did try to get some chair yoga going, and we didn't have a huge turnout for it, but it's definitely something we could consider in the future. If we had enough people interested, we could do some chair yoga, which is great for people with mobility issues, or for specific injuries. We can kind of accommodate whatever the interest.
How about a Sunday afternoon lounge chair class?
I love it.
That you have to work on pushing that handle to recline back.
You can teach that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm and the remote in the other channel. The accountability, or what you just said about the safety of the group, and Rose, I think. I'm sure you're in communities, support communities for trauma that are just people that have experienced something similar to what you've gone through. And I'm sure that is important, knowing those people and having that consistency to be able to feel safe about opening up about everything you're going through.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really in my area, but I have online. I have some, and a lot of different parents. Like I'm in a lot of these support groups for parents that have lost children and stuff like that. And some of them are just coming into it, and some are just, so you see everyone's journeys in a different space and where they're at. And, but it's been really helpful for me to just, to grieve out loud, and also to share my journey. And I do that a lot on these groups because it's helpful for me to share. It's healing for me. But also I've had a lot of parents reach out to me on like, how are you over here now? Like, how you don't get over it, but you move through it. And how are you able to be okay? How do you have a light now at the end of your tunnel? Like I'm in this darkness still. And so I try to share, my journey and the things that I'm doing, and I'm super open about it, and I think that's helpful because then it gives people hope,
Rose, do you, and I was hoping when I first met you or learned about this, that you fix it and it's gone. And that's not the case. Sadly, I'm learning. But on your journey with Catherine, are you surprised at how far did you think you could be at where you are right now with happiness or joy in life? Are you further than you had hoped or imagined would be possible? Because if I hadn't met you, I would think there is no hope for.
Yeah, I feel surprised every day. Like I said, I feel like it's a miracle every day that I'm okay. But then there's days where I'm not okay, and that's okay too. And I just learned to take those days, but I don't now. They're not this despair on my bad days. It's not this horrible despair, and I'm drinking it away. And now I sit with my pain, and even if it's a day where I just really don't want to get up and do anything, and I'm just gonna sit there, and being okay with that. I'm processing it, and it's so because some people think
where did you learn those tools? Where did you learn to do that?
Through meditation. Like, I didn't know anything about meditation when I started, but I thought, I've got to find something that I can latch onto, that I can connect emotionally and spiritually with my daughter and with myself. I've got to find something, and I downloaded a free app. It's Insight Timer, and I got that from a book that I read. The Quit Like a Woman book was the first sober book I read, and that kind of inspired me. And she had some tools in there, and that was one of the things I used. And it's guided meditations, and that you can do from 5 minutes to hours. And that's how I learned to meditate. But meditation just sort of saved me, because I was able to learn, okay, I'm not a sit still kind of person, very always going, busy. And so it forced me to sit there. And now I can't mask anything with alcohol or anything else. I just have to sit here and deal with it. And so, but the more you deal with that, then that's when the healing starts. You know what I mean? You have to deal with it, or else you're just pushing it down. Like, I just pushed it down for 3 years with alcohol and staying busy. And then I was forced to deal with it. It's painful. I mean, it hurts, and you have to think about it. I would have never been able to heal without that. Because you blame yourself. You have so much, especially in a situation like an overdose, and it's so senseless. And then all the things that could have happened, how she could have gotten help, all the things, all those things just run through your mind over and over. I used to torture myself, and I drink and I torture myself and blame myself for so long. But now I actually have there's very few things now that I still I'm working through, certain things still, but so much of it is healed. It's okay. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but I'm not all smiles and joy all the time, but now I actually have found meaning in my grief, and I'm healing. And every day is a miracle, and every day that I'm recovering. And I think it's important to be out loud about it. I think not everyone can, but I can. And so I choose to, and it helps me and it helps others. And I don't know if that answered your question.
It does.
Circle, but
it's all the process. Alex, I'm going to put stuff up on the sites, and if you go to gettingback-to-zero.com, if you go to the yoga, it takes you to your stuff too. But for people that are interested, how do they get a hold of you, and how do people get questions answered as far as what's the right program for me, or if this is the right place for me? What's the easiest way?
Yeah. So on the Mindful Life Practice website, we have a little chat button, so you could ask into the chat. You can also just reach out directly to me on Instagram. My Instagram is Alex McRobs. And then we also have the Mindful Life Practice Instagram. So those would probably be the best ways of getting in touch. And we will actually be having quite a few more North American evening classes with me in November, which is really exciting, because I'm going to be in a time zone that is going to work more for North American evenings. So I will be offering some new classes in the fall, and we do have our 2-week free trial. So we would love to have new community members join us.
Will I be asked to substitute teacher for you ever? If you're out?
Not yet. Not till you do your 200-hour yoga teacher training.
Yeah, there you go. And you do offer training. I know that, because Kathy, who's on here a lot, is she's loving it.
And she's going to be graduated in 2 weeks, which is amazing.
That's something I'm interested in the future, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds great. All right. Well, look, I'm going to let everyone go. It's Saturday morning. We do have, I think we're going to do a panel group if anyone would like to be on or share, or love to have you Tuesday night. And then Thursday, we have Peggy on talking about her new book, This Side of Alcohol, which is coming out. I've pre-ordered my copy, and I'm really looking forward to that. So we're going to talk with her Thursday night. But thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
And Rose,
Thank you so much.
I know this is corny, Rose, but thank you for your smile. I think that's that's the most important part about this whole discussion, is seeing the smile. That maybe validates half of this stuff. So
thank you.
All right. Well, you two hang on, and everyone else have a great weekend. Talk to each other. That's how we do it, right? That's the whole. That's what it comes down to for me, is talking to someone else that gets it. In fact, I'm going to be starting. I don't know how it's going to work out, but Alex, this actually came idea from you, but a WhatsApp group on the Getting Back to Zero, just to have accountability, that we can all, that if someone wants to, hey, I'm struggling right now, people will be on that can at least just chat back and forth, versus, hey, we'll talk to you in 3 days. Tough it out till then. White knuckle it. You know what? I got a great quote from Lisa, who was on the other day. But white knuckling, why we're doing this, white knuckling is just plain cruel. So we want to learn the tools to make it so we don't have to white knuckle through this stuff. And I love that. But anyways, you two stay on, and everyone else have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.